Welcome. My name's Sam. This is my take on the video project. Thought we should do something a little different. So let's go on a ride. Oh, forgot how to ride since we're recording. We're going on a trip in our favorite rocket ship, zooming through. All right, let's talk about it. Karl Polanyi is a Jewish, Austria-Hungarian person who overall is viewed as an economist. So, why are we talking about economists in sociology class? The way he thought about economics is very important as in a sociological aspect. Let's start with his early life and work our way up. He was born in 1886. He was homeschooled most of his life prior to his college education. He went to college at Budapest University in Hungary. He's Austro-Hungarian. He was born in Austria, but went to college in Hungary. He did not graduate from Budapest University. He was kicked out for getting in too many fights, trying to defend one of his favorite professors that was apparently being attacked by people. He then went to a little lesser known school called Kosovar, and that is where he finished his degree. So, fun fact, he did not study economics or anthropology, sociology, anything of that nature. He graduated with a Doctor of Law degree, right? And then following college is where he gets into the economics and socioeconomics, all that good stuff. So right after college, he joins the Austrian military. He serves in World War One as a cavalry officer in the Austrian military. He comes home from war. The Austrian government becomes overthrown by communists, so he moves to Hungary. Goes from Austria to Hungary. This is when he begins diving into economics, sociological, socioeconomic problems, all that good stuff. Really gets involved in working in those fields. He also finds a wife and marries her. And then he goes around teaching. All right, so while teaching, um, he lands this job at a university in New York. He tries to move his wife to the United States, right? Because she's in Hungary. They want to live together. We're closer to his work. She cannot come due to him being unable to obtain a visa to get her into the United States. So they move to Canada together. And fun fact, he commutes across the Canadian border to New York for work every single day during this time. Talking about Polanyi's perspective and views, and he writes this book called The Great Transformation in 1944. The primary idea of this book is just explains his view on society, but in a way to kind of predict what's going to come about from the Industrial Revolution, which the world is going through during this time. His views are that sociology, anthropology, um, politics, culture, things of that nature cannot be viewed as separate from economy, but that they are intertwined. As an economist, he said that you cannot study the economy without looking at the sociological, cultural aspects that were going on at the time or in the place of where you're studying the economy at. These two concepts together, he coined the term a market society, right? A quote from Karl Polanyi: man's economy, as a rule, is submerged in his social relationships, right? Karl Polanyi is credited with creating the formalist versus substantivist debate in economical studies, right? Formalist, an economist who looks at the economy as how it's classically been studied up until this point of Polanyi's idea. Right? A formalist uses math, statistics, things of that nature, hard science to formulate their view of how the economy is working at the time. Formalist is someone who looks at the economy as everybody is trying to do only what will be the most beneficial and useful to themselves and the economy. Formalists state that people never make irrational decisions, but can make the not right decision only based off of being ill informed, right? They don't have the full picture of information or they have the wrong information about the economy at the time. A substantivist is the other side of that view. It states that economy is based on society. This is what Polanyi was trying to illustrate. Humans make a living differently in different societies depending on their conditions. The material conditions or tangible conditions at the time may not be optimal for that society, so they choose. They make economical and financial decisions based on that. Formalists believe this doesn't happen, right? In the substantivist view, the economy should not be studied without taking into account the political, sociocultural context at the time it's being studied. Polanyi believed that throughout most of human history, the market hasn't played a significant role in trade. The only time the market was involved in trade prior to the market being coined was maybe long distance travel, right? If you hear there's someone 8 states over, or a group of people 8 states over that are highly demanding something that you readily have, then it might be worth the trip to travel 8 states over, right, to go deliver these goods. Polanyi believed there was 3 other ways that people went about uh, survival, right? All right, so the 3 different ways that commodities were handled prior to the market being around: redistribution, reciprocity, and householding, right? Redistribution. All commodities were obtained by an overarching leader or team of leadership. That person or those people then distributed all those commodities how they felt necessary to their subordinates or, their people of their society, right? Since they're the leaders. Kind of how a lot of things went on, especially in the authoritarian leadership styled places around the world. All right, so that's redistribution. Reciprocity. People traded what they had for what other people had, for those people to have everything they needed, right? This is different from market, right? Is things that you were needing at the time. If I grow tomatoes and 2 doors down, my neighbor Bob has a cabbage farm, then I can give him tomatoes since he doesn't grow tomatoes and he can give me cabbage since I don't grow cabbage, and we both have tomatoes and cabbage. That's reciprocity. And the third way would be householding. If you ever heard of the term homesteading in modern day society, living off the grid on your own, that's kind of the principle for this theory. One person or one family only makes things that they need to survive, right? Self sufficiency is a better way to put that. They don't really mingle outside of their family when it comes to trade or anything like that. They make their own clothes, they make their own food, they grow their own vegetables, harvest their own meats from their farm. That's householding. They don't really have to go to get anything from anywhere. Polanyi said that a market system was only used prior to recently to um, obtain things that were otherwise unattainable, right? Meaning, um, you can't grow things given your climate or environment, but the other country can. Um, that's where a market system would come into place of, you know, getting those goods to you that you need because you're unable to grow them due to your environmental stuff, like it's too humid or too dry for that specific food to grow here effectively, that sort of nature, right? Now, this is kind of where we get into The Great Transformation. It's a book written by Karl Polanyi in 1944, and this is what made him famous, right? This book was kind of controversial at the time and challenging the classical economical teachings at that time. And this is where he's tried to play out what's going to happen from the industrial revolution that the country and the world's in at the time, right? So 1944, Polanyi writes this book, The Great Transformation, and the main takeaways are three key points that you should know about: fictitious commodities, embeddedness, and the double movement, right? Fictitious commodities. Polanyi theorized that there are a few things that are kind of commodities, but they should not be looked at or treated like commodities because that would cause major, major social disarray, right? Three good examples, and the main examples I think that are used for this theory are land, money, and labor, right? These things are not purely developed for profit, right? You cannot make money to profit, right? Money is a means of trading, a placeholder for value. The word I was looking for here is value. The best example of why these things are fictitious commodities in Polanyi's teachings is labor, right? So once you start treating labor as a commodity, then it's no longer a human that is working, it is labor as a commodity, right? So if you take the human aspect out of it, it's not a human working anymore, it is just labor. Then that's where you run into um, things such as abuse, low wages, no wages, meaning that if you can find the labor without having to pay for it, that is obviously economically optimal, right? If you're just looking at it for profit to gain something, then if you can find a way to gain it for free, then that is the most optimal, right? That's if you look at labor as a commodity, that's how you should look at it. But then, what is somebody working for free? That's slavery. look at labor as a pure commodity, then it causes problems, right? All right, the second key point is embeddedness. The market and society could not exist independently, right? They are one and the same. Um, Society is inherently embedded into the market is inherently embedded into society. People, again, don't make choices, individual choices, purely based off the market. They make choices based off of um, societal standards, social acceptance, the culture, and politics. Everything that's going on at the time that the person makes the decision is the reason they make the decision. People do not make decisions purely economically. Doesn't exist. All right, and the last key point is the double movement. And the double movement is a concept that's kind of difficult to explain. The free market trying to free itself from society, political, uh, socio ethical ties is counterintuitive because the counter movement pushes them further away from being a free market, right? It goes, it bothers society so much that they make drastic measures to move in the other direction, and then they end up on the more social side of economy versus the more separated socio-economical stuff. After retiring from teaching, Polanyi involved himself with some research groups and things of that nature uh, up until his death in 1964. In summary, Polanyi is credited with being one of the most influential and important thinkers of his time period. His name rings bells throughout economic fields, especially, but also in sociological studies, due to how he thinks about economics. Polanyi was one of the first to state that the economy and society were inherently embedded into each other, and that changed the way that most people look at the economy these days. This has been my super long video project. Appreciate you watching.